this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
This is Red Pilled America.
Why haven't you followed us on Twitter yet? Or Instagram and Facebook? Following us on social media is the easiest way to support the show, and it's free. Just visit redpilledamerica.com. Click on the social media icons at the bottom of the page, then give us a follow. And don't forget to visit our store by clicking shop at the top of redpilledamerica.com. We have hats, candles, beer mugs, t-shirts, a book, keychains, and a bunch of other things. You can even buy gift certificates for your friends and family.
And if you want to listen to Red Pilled America's newest episodes ad-free, become a Backstage subscriber. You'll get access to our entire archive of episodes. Just visit redpilledamerica.com and click join in the top menu. That's redpilledamerica.com and click join in the top menu. Now on with the show. Previously on Red Pilled America.
For the decade following the 1898 Wong Kim Ark decision, total immigration inflows averaged from 800,000 to 1 million per year, an almost 20% growth in U.S. population. They came with completely different beliefs, traditions, and languages.
In 1916, Randolph Bourne penned Transnational America. Bourne saw the United States as a nation of immigrants, with none being able to make an indigenous claim on American principles.
We are all foreign-born or the descendants of foreign-born, and if distinctions are to be made between us, they should rightly be on some other ground than indigenousness.
Transnational America marked the emergence of a globalist movement in its infancy. I'm Patrick Corelchi.
And I'm Adriana Cortez.
And this is Red Pilled America, a storytelling show.
This is not another talk show covering the day's news. We're all about telling stories.
Stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear.
Stories the media mocks. Stories about everyday Americans that the globalists ignore.
You can think of Red Pilled America as audio documentaries, and we promise only one thing: the truth. Welcome to Red Pilled America. It was October 3rd, 1965, when President Lyndon B. Johnson made a bold claim to the American people.
This bill that we will sign today is not a revolutionary bill. It does not affect the lives of millions. It will not reshape the structure of our daily lives or really add importantly to either our wealth or our power. Yet it is still one of the most important acts of this Congress and of this administration. This measure that we will sign today will really make us truer to ourselves, both as a country and as a people. It will strengthen us in 100 unseen ways.
But LBJ told one of the biggest presidential lies in U.S. history, because the bill he was about to sign would not only weaken the country, but it would also change the face of America, literally. We're at part 6 of our series of episodes entitled What's an American? We're looking for the answer to that question by taking a deep dive into the meaning of American citizenship. So to pick up where we left off in our last episode, in 1958, the Supreme Court found that Congress was within the powers of the U.S. Constitution to revoke the citizenship of Clement Martinez Perez. Perez was born to Mexican nationals that were legally residing in Texas. But at the age of 10, he moved with his family back to Mexico, where he lived for the next 3 decades plus. He married a Mexican national, and the two raised 7 kids together in Mexico. He admitted to living south of the border to avoid the World War II draft. Time after time, when asked, Perez identified as a Mexican citizen and even cashed in on U.S. labor programs for Mexican nationals. He may have been born a citizen of both Mexico and the United States, but his allegiance was with his parents' homeland. It was only after World War II, when the draft ended, that Perez claimed he was an American citizen. However, when he admitted to U.S. officials that he voted in the 1946 Mexican presidential election, U.S. immigration enforcement saw that as a voluntary act that showed allegiance to a foreign power and revoked his U.S. citizenship. And in 1958, the Supreme Court upheld that action. The decision was monumental. The U.S. Supreme Court was effectively saying that the 14th Amendment protects birthright citizenship, but if a person voluntarily places themselves under the sovereign control of another nation, they are stepping outside the jurisdiction and protection of the U.S. Constitution, and Congress can legally recognize that by revoking citizenship status. In other words, voluntarily acting as a dual citizen was grounds for losing American citizenship. The American system required exclusive allegiance to the United States and her principles. In essence, the court preserved the cornerstone of American citizenship.
But in the same year of the Perez decision, a U.S. senator stepped onto the national stage with a message that would eventually be used to undermine what it meant to be an American.
We are the descendants of 40 million people who left other countries, other familiar scenes, to come here to the United States to build a new life, to make a new opportunity for themselves and their children.
In 1958, Senator John F. Kennedy of Massachusetts published an essay at the request of an activist organization. The group wanted the senator to portray immigration as America's strength and identity. The organization that made the request was the Anti-Defamation League, a Jewish civil rights organization founded to fight anti-Semitism. JFK agreed to publish the essay. It was released as a small booklet titled A Nation of Immigrants. The current CEO of the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, would later reflect on the ADL's request in a foreword of the book.
ADL had launched a deliberate and determined campaign of advocacy that began with one simple spark: this book. Its origins trace back to the mid-1950s when ADL leadership, alarmed by rising xenophobia and anti-immigrant fervor, saw the echoes of an earlier pattern. At numerous points in prior decades, America had closed its doors to people fleeing prejudice, discrimination, and violence. In the early 1900s, these were Jews exiting Tsarist Russia, seeking a life free from pogroms. In the 1930s, these were Jews escaping Germany and neighboring countries during the brutality of the Third Reich. In the 1940s, these were the Jews fleeing the graveyards of Europe and hoping to find a safer and more stable existence. In the 1950s, Jews were not the main group that sought refuge, but the recent trauma of their own refugee experience had scarred the American Jewish community and its institutions, including Ben.
Ben being the ADL national director at the time, Ben Epstein.
So he reached out to a young junior senator from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and asked him to write a book that explained our diverse American roots to the ill-informed, reminding them that the United States is a country of refugees and a nation of immigrants. That senator was John F. Kennedy. Kennedy delivered on this request, but also did more. He concluded his essay with his vision for immigration reform, particularly the elimination of the national origins quota system.
The quota system that was in place in 1958 was designed to address a building concern among Americans. In the early 1900s, the United States found itself grappling with unprecedented waves of immigration, primarily from Southern and Eastern Europe. These newcomers arrived with languages, religions, beliefs, politics, and customs that were vastly different from those of the largely Anglo-Saxon American mainstream. By the 1920s, anxieties over cultural cohesion and ideological subversion began to reshape national policy. The result was a dramatic pause in immigration that would last for 4 decades. At the core of this pause was a rising concern that the American identity, rooted in shared values, language, and loyalty, was being diluted by the arrival of groups who either resisted assimilation or viewed the United States as merely a temporary stop for economic gain. This phenomenon troubled the American people, and their concern was not unfounded. In the early 1900s, most immigrants from Europe came through Ellis Island in New York Harbor. It served as the nation's busiest immigration inspection station. More than 12 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island during its operation, most between 1900 and 1924, a period of massive immigration. But the problem was an extraordinary number of these immigrants didn't stay or refused to assimilate. Historians estimate that roughly 1/3 of the immigrants who came through Ellis Island eventually returned to their home countries. This pattern of return migration was especially pronounced among immigrants from Italy, the Balkans, and parts of Eastern Europe. Many of these migrants were young men who arrived not to settle permanently, but to earn wages and eventually return home to buy land or start businesses. They viewed America as an economic zone to exploit. Their transitory presence raised questions among legacy Americans about their commitment to American civic life and further fueled the notion that the nation was becoming a revolving door rather than a destination for genuine integration. Those that stayed often huddled in their own ethnic enclaves, refusing to assimilate into the American mainstream. Southern Italians made Little Italy in New York. Poles created Polish Hill in Pittsburgh. The Greeks formed Greektown in Detroit. Ashkenazi Jews gathered in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. The Slovaks created Bohemian Flats in Minneapolis. The Ukrainians had Ukrainian Village in Chicago. And the Hungarians made Little Hungary in Cleveland. Assimilation was not a priority for these new immigrants. Most had closer ties with their home countries than with America, and they were carrying with them the same beliefs and feuds that they had in the Old World. If their numbers were kept small, it wouldn't have been an issue. But these migrants were coming in massive numbers with no end in sight. If this phenomenon continued, American culture would not be defined by the Anglo-Saxon Protestant norms that made the country stable and prosperous. It would effectively become the same multicultural landmass of Europe, a landmass that had suffered centuries of bloodshed. The echoes of the founders' warnings about immigration began ringing in the ears of legacy Americans. The voices of founders like Thomas Jefferson.
They will bring with them the principles of the governments they leave, imbibed in their early youth. In proportion to their numbers, they will share with us the legislation. They will infuse into it their spirit, warp and bias its direction, and render it a heterogeneous, incoherent, distracted mass.
John Quincy Adams had warned of this phenomenon.
They must cast off the European skin, never to resume it. They must look forward to their posterity rather than backward to their ancestors. They must be sure that whatever their own feelings may be, those of their children will cling to the prejudices of this country and will partake of that proud spirit.
These new immigrants were not concerned about assimilation. They just wanted to make a mini version of their ancestral lands. So the American citizens of the time began to look at immigration in a negative light. That's when pro-immigration advocates stepped in to try and change the tide, and they used one of the most iconic American landmarks to launch their campaign. All right, if you guys know anything about me, you know that I am crazy about my dogs. And let me tell you something. My English bulldog, Pablo, had been suffering with the worst skin allergies. And then I started giving him rough greens in his food, and boy, what a difference that made. This stuff is amazing. Now Pablo is a Rough Greens dog for life. Rough Greens supports long-term health by providing live, bioavailable nutrients, including essential vitamins, minerals, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and omega oils. Rough Greens promotes longevity by addressing common nutritional deficiencies found in processed dog food. I don't just recommend Rough Greens, I depend on it to keep my dogs happy and healthy. Traditional dog food is shelf-stable for years because it's lifeless. Rough Greens brings the nutrition back, packed with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and omega oils. Rough Greens isn't dog food. It's a live nutritional supplement you add to your dog's food. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens. It's that easy, and I promise you, you will not regret it. Don't change your dog's food, just add Rough Greens. Rough Greens is offering a free Jumpstart trial bag. You just cover shipping. Use discount code RPA to claim your free Jumpstart trial bag at roughgreens.com. That's RUFF greens.com, promo code RPA. So don't change your dog's food, just add Rough Greens and watch the health benefits come alive.
Welcome back to Red Pilled America. When the Statue of Liberty was designed and gifted by France in the late 1800s, it was meant to celebrate the Franco-American shared ideals of liberty and republican government. there was no explicit connection to immigration in its original conception. In 1883, a fundraising art auction was held to raise money for the statue's pedestal. American poet Emma Lazarus was invited to contribute a literary work for the auction. At first, she declined. As an American Jew, she was more focused on aiding Jewish refugees fleeing Russian pogroms. But after being told that the statue could serve as a beacon of hope to persecuted Jews, she changed her mind and wrote the sonnet, The New Colossus. In it, Lazarus delivered one of the most famous lines in American literature.
Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free.
The poem was included in the auction and published in the pamphlet, but it received little attention at the time and was not part of the statue's official dedication in 1886. A year after the statue's dedication, Emma Lazarus died of cancer at the young age of 38. In the wake of her death, her work went largely overlooked. But in the early 1900s, as concern over immigration assimilation began to peak, a deliberate campaign to counter anti-immigrant sentiment was underway. It looked to reframe the Statue of Liberty not as an icon of liberty, but instead as a symbol of immigration. The Immigration Processing Center, Ellis Island, was practically in Lady Liberty's shadow. Wealthy pro-immigration activists saw the statue as the perfect symbol to change the narrative about immigration, and thought marrying the statue with the poem by Emma Lazarus would do the trick. In 1903, they installed a bronze plaque featuring the New Colossus poem inside the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. Over time, Lazarus's poem reshaped public perception of the Statue of Liberty, not just as a symbol of freedom, but as a mother figure welcoming immigrants to a new life. This pro-immigrant campaign continued in 1908 when Israel Zangwill launched his play The Melting Pot in Washington, D.C. Also concerned with immigrant assimilation, President Theodore Roosevelt helped elevate the Melting Pot's phrase's cultural impact. But by 1916, as we learned earlier in this series, a movement took root that wanted to destroy America's Anglo-Saxon assimilation model and replace it with a globalist, multicultural United States. Randolph Bourne marked this progressive shift with his essay Transnational America, where he criticized the Anglo-Saxon model of assimilation as just another form of oppression. He argued that America should accept dual citizenship and celebrate hyphenated Americans. By 1919, Americans were becoming deeply concerned with the rise of this sentiment. Former President Theodore Roosevelt captured the era's assimilationist ethos in a 1919 letter on immigration, declaring,
"In the first place, we should insist that if the immigrant who comes here in good faith becomes an American and assimilates himself to us, he shall be treated on an exact equality with everyone else. For it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed or birthplace or origin. But this is predicated upon the person's becoming in every facet an American and nothing but an American. There can be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he is an American but something else also isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is a loyalty to the American people."
Roosevelt's words reflected a belief widely shared across the political spectrum, that unity required not only legal allegiance, but full cultural absorption. For those shaping immigration policy, Americanization was not an optional process. It was essential for social cohesion and the price of admission to the Republic. While immigration tensions at home rose, political developments abroad also intensified domestic fears. Vladimir Lenin led the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, a Marxist overthrow of Russia's provincial government. Americans feared radicals like the Bolsheviks could be hidden among the immigrants ready to cause havoc in the United States, and their fears quickly became reality. In 1919, followers of an anarchist Italian immigrant named Luigi Galliani targeted prominent government and business figures. In one night, they set off 9 bombs in 8 different American cities, including one outside the home of Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer. The homeland bombings created deep unease that radical political ideologies were being imported alongside immigrants. Suspected anarchists and communists, many of them foreign-born, were arrested and deported. To many Americans, this validated the idea that the country needed an immigration cooling-off period to ensure that the institutions would not be undermined by ideologies incompatible with American principles. These concerns culminated in the passage of the Immigration Act of 1924, an act that drastically limited immigration. It capped the total of immigrants to the U.S. at 165,000 per year, with strict quotas based on national origin. Each country was given a quota, allowing only 2% of the number of people from that country who were already living in the United States in 1890. About 182,000 Italian-born people lived in the U.S. in 1890. That meant only around 3,600 Italians could immigrate each year. About 625,000 Swedish-born people lived in the U.S. in 1890, so Sweden's yearly quota was about 12,500. Around 2.8 million German-born people were living in the U.S. then, so Germany's annual cap was much higher, around 56,000, and so on and so on. This quota system heavily favored immigrants from Northern and Western Europe, like Britain, Germany, Ireland, and the like, while drastically limiting those from Southern and Eastern Europe, and it almost entirely barred immigration from Asia. The only immigrants exempt from the quotas were spouses and children of U.S. citizens, skilled agricultural workers, certain types of professionals, and refugees, but on a very limited basis. From 1925 to 1929, average legal immigration was between 150,000 to 165,000, a drastic reduction from a high of nearly 1.3 million in 1907. By 1931, immigration fell to 97,000. And in 1933, at the depths of the Great Depression, the number of immigrants admitted into the U.S. plummeted to just 23,000. The Immigration Act of 1924 was designed to favor people with a history of successfully assimilating into America's Anglo-Saxon culture, while giving everyone else time to melt into the mainstream. Senate Majority Leader Henry Cabot Lodge of Massachusetts framed the issue at the time in terms of national stability. He feared that continued mass immigration from culturally distant regions would result in a, quote, heterogeneous chaos instead of a homogeneous nation, end quote. In his view, unchecked immigration was not merely a demographic issue, it was a threat to the very cohesion of the republic. President Calvin Coolidge also held this belief. As he signed the bill into law, Coolidge proclaimed, "America must remain American." This quota system governed immigration until Congress modified it by passing the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. The act retained quotas but shifted them to the demographics of the 1920 census. It also allowed Asians to become naturalized citizens for the first time. The act also enabled ideological screening, allowing exclusion or deportation of suspected subversives, including communists. President Truman tried to veto the bill, but Congress overrode the veto, signifying the national popularity of the act. The principles expressed in this series of acts governed immigration for over 40 years. During this period, American culture emphasized the importance of full assimilation, with English language instruction, patriotic rituals, and cultural conformity seen as essential to national unity. This immigration pause was not simply a reaction to numbers, but a deliberate effort to protect the cultural and political foundations of the country. While later generations have critiqued this period for its exclusivity, the policies were addressing legitimate concerns, namely the desire to ensure that those who entered the United States did so not merely to extract opportunity, but to embrace and uphold America's civic ideals. It was during this time that America experienced extraordinary growth and prosperity. In some years, the GDP grew to almost 9%, an extraordinary number considering that the modern standard of a healthy U.S. economy is between 2 and 2.5%. In the decades that followed World War II, median household incomes nearly doubled. The U.S. became the world's manufacturing leader, with very little global competition. Unemployment plummeted and house ownership became the norm. The GI Bill, suburbanization, and consumer demand fueled sustained American expansion. Immigration was not a major driver of this boom. In fact, it wasn't even a minor contributor. Labor needs were largely met by the native-born population. Where additional labor was needed, temporary programs were used. From 1942 to 1964, the Bracero program allowed seasonal Mexican labor in agriculture without increasing permanent immigration. Domestic workforce expansion through the baby boom and even an increase in women entering the workforce filled many roles. Technological advancement and productivity growth also reduced dependency on immigrant labor. The post-World War II economic boom came to be known as the Golden Age of Capitalism, and it all happened with an immigration pause. But like all good times, someone comes along to spoil the party. The ADL convinced Senator John F. Kennedy to take up the cause of so-called immigration reform, and it became a cornerstone of his 1960 presidential run.
Hello, I'm John Kennedy. Our present immigration laws are completely unfair and discriminatory. Even though Italy and England may have the same population, we permit 10 Englishmen to come in for every Italian. We permit about 300 Portuguese, about the same number of Greeks. We permit very few Poles or Lithuanians, or Czechs or Hungarians or Yugoslavs or Romanians or Bulgarians. It discriminates against Southern Europe and Eastern Europe. All this was done in the McCarran-Walters Act, which was vetoed by President Truman. I voted against the bill. I voted to sustain the president's veto. Mr. Nixon voted for the bill. He voted to override the president's veto. I believe we should do better. I believe we should be fairer. And I hope the next Congress and the next president will write a fair immigration law.
Help elect John F. Kennedy for president.
Richard Nixon, who was vice president in 1960, was the early favorite for the White House. But after the first televised presidential debates in history, the media went all in for the telegenic JFK, and their thumb on the scale made the difference.
Nixon appeared at local GOP headquarters with his wife to the cheers of campaign workers. At almost 4 a.m., he virtually acknowledged defeat.
As I look at the board here, while there are still some results still to come in, if the present trend continues, if Mr. Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, will be the next president of the United States. I want Senator Kennedy to know, and I want all of you to know, that certainly if this trend does continue, and he does become our next president, that he will have my wholehearted support and yours.
The 1960 race for the White House was effectively over.
In reply to the Vice President, I sent him the following wire. Vice President Nixon, Los Angeles, California. Your sincere good wishes are gratefully accepted. The next 4 years are going to be difficult and challenging years for us all. The election may have been a close one, but I think that there is general agreement by all of our citizens that a supreme national effort will be needed in the years ahead to move this country safely through the 1960s.
The young, charismatic Irish Catholic had won the race, but the 1960s would become anything but safe because radical cultural movements that had been percolating below the surface began to make noise in the mainstream.
Do you want to hear Red Pilled America stories ad-free? Then become a Backstage subscriber. Just log on to redpilledamerica.com and click Join in the top menu. Join today and help us save America one story at a time. Welcome back to Red Pilled America. During his victory speech on the night of the 1960 election, John F. Kennedy expressed a hope that unity would help Americans move safely through the 1960s.
The election may have been a close one, but I think that there is general agreement by all of our citizens that a supreme national effort will be needed in the years ahead to move this country safely through the 1960s.
But the 1960s would become anything but safe because radical cultural movements that had been percolating below the surface began to make some noise in the mainstream.
Malcolm X, he is the leader of the nationalist Negro movement known as the Muslims, and Mr. X early this morning met with Cuba's Fidel Castro here at the Hotel Teresa in New York.
These radical forces began promoting a different narrative about American history. Instead of highlighting America's incredible history and the challenges that the nation had overcome, they instead emphasized the darker history of the American experiment.
We are African, and we happen to be in America. We're not American. We are people who formerly were Africans who were kidnapped and brought to America. Our forefathers weren't the Pilgrims. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. The rock was landed on us. We were brought here against our will. We were not brought here to be made citizens.
These radicals attacked the cornerstone of American culture, the traditional family.
The war between the sexes could become an Armageddon if we don't get on with our revolution. But if we do get on with it and we restructure society to make equality really possible, then I think the war between the sexes will end, and for the first time we will have possible true human sexual liberation.
They wanted to kill the thriving American way of life. And at just the right moment, they took their shot.
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. There has been an attempt, as perhaps you know now, on the life of President Kennedy. He was wounded in an automobile driving from Dallas Airport into downtown Dallas, along with Governor Connolly of Texas. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital there, where their condition is as yet unknown.
I have just talked to Father Oscar Hubert of the Holy Trinity Catholic Church. He and another priest tell me that the pair of men have just administered the last rites of the Catholic Church to President Kennedy.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
Upon today's assassination of President Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson became the new President of the United States.
The assassination of JFK unleashed a radical element in America, the likes of which the country had never seen before.
There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
They were emboldened and took on some of the worst elements of the racial division they claimed to be fighting against.
We want black power. We want black power.
With the nation still mourning the death of its leader, the radical left had a brief window to enact just about anything on JFK's agenda, and they decided to use the moment to change the fabric of America. They brought to life the goals expressed in the late president's essay, A Nation of Immigrants, because you see, lawmakers couldn't do it when JFK was alive. After JFK's White House win, he urged Congress to pass legislation that would strike down the national origins quota system. In 1963, he sent a message to Congress.
The national origins system is without basis in either logic or reason. It is an anachronism that would be indefensible even if it had not been rendered meaningless by changes in the world and in the United States.
He wanted Congress to bring an end to the quota system with so-called immigration reform. To help give Congress momentum, he quickly expanded his earlier essay, A Nation of Immigrants, into a short book, which was published and circulated by the ADL. In response, Congress drafted the Hart-Celler Act. The bill claimed to create an immigration system that focused on family reunification and merit-based immigration. If passed, it would abolish the national origins quota system, under which the nation had flourished for 40 years. But the bill stalled in committee. With radical elements clearly seeping into American institutions, lawmakers were hesitant to pass legislation that could upend the stability of the nation. So the bill stalled and never made it to a vote. But once JFK was assassinated, a window of opportunity was opened. Democrats seized the moment and made another attempt at opening up the immigration system. The charge was led by JFK's youngest brother, Ted Kennedy. When JFK won the White House, his Massachusetts Senate seat became vacant. During a special election in 1962, Ted Kennedy won the seat. So, when the Hart-Celler Act came before Congress in 1965, Ted Kennedy took the lead in arguing for its passage. To soften up the opposition, he made a bold claim about the act.
In a February 1965 Senate hearing, Ted Kennedy said, The bill will not flood our cities with immigrants. It will not upset the ethnic mix of our society. It will not relax the standards of admission. It will not cause American workers to lose their jobs.
The resistance that left the bill stuck in committee just 2 years earlier completely collapsed. It easily passed both the House and the Senate. And on October 3, 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson stood at the base of the Statue of Liberty, the rebranded monument to immigration, and spoke of the significance of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965.
For over 4 decades, the immigration policy of the United States has been twisted by the harsh injustice of the national origins quota system. Under that system, the ability of new immigrants to come to America depended upon the country of their birth. Only 3 countries were allowed to supply 70% of all the immigrants. It has been un-American in the highest sense because it has been untrue to the faith that brought thousands to these shores, even before we were a country. Today, with my signature, this system is abolished. Now, under the monument which has welcomed so many to our shores, the American nation returns to the finest of its traditions today. The days of unlimited immigration are past. But those who do come will come because of what they are and not because of the land from which they sprung.
But President Lyndon B. Johnson was lying to the public because the Democrats were about to open the floodgates to America.
Coming up on Red Pilled America.
As the end of the 1960s approached, radicals began to emerge from the shadows in America's universities.
It's my great honor today to introduce to you one of the greatest thinkers of our age, Herbert Marcuse.
But for their transnational America to become a reality, they first had to reverse the Perez Supreme Court decision and make dual citizenship effectively legal.
Red Pilled America is an iHeartRadio original podcast. It's owned and produced by Patrick Horelchi and me, Adriana Cortez, for Informed Ventures. Now you can get ad-free access to our entire catalog of episodes by becoming a Backstage subscriber. To subscribe, just visit redpilledamerica.com and click Join in the top menu. Thanks for listening.
When you own your own business, you need to keep things moving. Need to book a last-minute flight? Earn a $300 travel credit to cover that. Need to take a meeting before takeoff? Do it from the comfort of the Chase Sapphire Lounge by the club. Need to catch your breath before you board? Done. Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business, the business card that gives back all you put in. Visit chase.com/reserve business to learn more. Cards issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC, subject to credit approval. Terms apply.
Turn someday into right now with Body by Jake Radio. Non-stop workout music and expert tips 24/7.
Hey, head over to iHeart.com, search Body by Jake Radio, and stream it for free right now.
Awesome health and wellness tips 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Remember, stick to the fight. When your hardest hit, it's when things seem worst that you must not quit. Don't quit.
Body by Jake Radio, where hope meets momentum.
Search Body by Jake Radio and stream it for free. Have a great day.
iHeart Radio.